Are you a beginner at level building and currently have zero clue how any trigger works? Well, today I'm gonna fix that by teaching you the 11 most important and easy to learn Geometry Dash triggers that will turn your level into a masterpiece. This tutorial does not get specific with each trigger, but I promise you'll still learn a lot from this. Without further ado, let's get on to the first trigger. The first trigger you are going to learn is a color trigger. The color trigger changes the color used in the level, and it is very easy to learn. Here's how to use it. First, place down your color trigger. Pretty easy. With your color trigger selected, click the Edit Object button. Before you do anything, go to the bottom right corner where it says Color ID. Hit the blue plus near the name. Make sure that you select background or ground for now, because if you don't select anything for this tab, then nothing will happen. So I will select background. Press OK once you've done that step. Now once that's done, select the color you would like to use by using the color wheel. Take some time to learn about it. Now the fade time customizes how long it takes for the current color to change into the second color, or like the one that you made with the color wheel. Once you've customized everything, you can now see the results. And that is how you use the color trigger. On to the next one. The next trigger you are about to learn is a move trigger. The move trigger does exactly what it says. It moves an object from point A to point B. The way it works is pretty simple. First, place the object that you want to move. I'm going to use a square for my example. After that, make sure you have the object selected and click Edit Group in the top right corner. Next, you have to assign the object a group ID. This is important for the move trigger. To assign a group ID, click the box in the center and change it. For mine, I'm going to assign the object a group ID of 1. Press the Add button once you're done that. It should show up below just like this. Press OK after that. Now, place your move trigger. Place it before or on the object you've placed to see the results easily. While having your move trigger selected, click the blue Edit Object button. The very first thing you want to do is go to the bottom right corner of the pop-up where it says Target Group ID. Set that ID to the same thing you set your object ID as. In my case, I will set my Target Group ID to 1. Make sure these IDs do match or else nothing will happen. Once that's done, take some time to mess around with the other things on the move trigger menu. Note that positive X and Y make the object move east and north, and negative X and Y makes the object move west and south. Also note that moving a block by 1 on the grid will equal to 10 on the X and Y values. For example, if I wanted to move my object 4 blocks to the left, I would have to make the X value 40. And the move time customizes how long it takes for the object to get to the right position. Congrats, you have now learned one of the most useful triggers in Geometry Dash. Now, on to the next one. The third trigger you are about to learn is the stop trigger. The stop trigger has the ability to pause, resume, or completely stop an active trigger. I recommend that you learn something like the move trigger before doing this, by the way. To start, apply the move trigger to a certain object. I will fast forward to get to the part where the stop trigger applies. Now the new thing about the stop trigger is that you apply the group ID to the move trigger, not the object. So go to the move trigger and select it. Press the Edit Group button and click Add Group ID and set it to a different number. I will set my ID to 2. Now place the stop trigger. Place the stop trigger after the move trigger to see better results. Now with the stop trigger selected, click Edit Object and immediately change the target ID to whatever your move trigger ID is set to. Mine is set as 2, so I will make the target ID 2. It should look something like this right now. If you want to have the object pause and resume, set the first stop trigger to pause. Copy and paste the stop trigger and bring it to the right, and then have that pause trigger set to resume. Piece of cake. If you've done the full thing, it should look something like this. Good job learning this. On to the next one. The fourth trigger you are about to learn is the pulse trigger. The pulse trigger is a trigger that can advance the transitions of a color and the time a color is active. I recommend that you learn the color trigger before learning this one. Like the color trigger, all you have to do is place down the pulse trigger, edit object, and change the channel ID to background or something else. The new thing about this trigger is that you can further customize the transitions of the color. The fade in, hold, and fade out sliders are what make the pulse trigger unique. And as always, you select the color you want by using the color wheel. And that is pretty much it for the pulse trigger. It shouldn't take that long to learn this one because it's basically just the color trigger but with a few extra things. On to the next one. The fifth trigger you are about to learn is the alpha trigger. The alpha trigger allows you to customize the opacity of an object. It's also used to make objects invisible. Here's how to use it. First, place down your object and give it a group ID like usual. I will give mine a group ID of 1. Now, place your alpha trigger and select Edit Object. And before doing anything, match the group ID to the same ID you set for your object. So in this case, I will set mine to a group ID of 1. Now the point of the alpha trigger is to mostly make things invisible, so you can do that by changing the opacity to 0. The fade time determines how long it takes for the object to reach that opacity. Congrats on learning the alpha trigger. On to the next one. We are now halfway through the basic triggers, so while we're here, I would like you guys to consider subscribing to me. By subscribing, you get me closer to my goal of 10k subscribers, so I'll be very grateful if you smash that subscribe button. I make epic content similar to this, and your sub would mean a lot to me. Also, leave a comment. What is your favorite Geometry Dash trigger? It doesn't have to be one of the ones in this video. Anyways, back to the tutorials. The 6th trigger you are about to learn is the toggle trigger. The toggle trigger is able to make blocks disappear and reappear. It is very easy to use. First, place down an object and give it a group ID. Next, place the toggle trigger. This trigger will only make the object disappear. Now edit the toggle trigger by using edit object and set the group ID to the object ID. If you've done it right, the square should disappear like that. Now if you want to make the object reappear, copy and paste your toggle trigger and bring it to the right. And with that new trigger, click edit object and check off the activate group button. You know you've done it right when the trigger turns green. And that is pretty much it for the toggle trigger. On to the next one. The 7th trigger you are about to learn is the spawn trigger. The spawn trigger activates any trigger that it is linked to. This is a challenging trigger to learn, so make sure you follow the steps closely. I also recommend learning something like the move trigger before doing this. First, link an object to a move trigger. It can be linked to any other trigger you've learned, but I'll just use the move trigger for this example. Now in the trigger you have made, make sure you always check off the box that says spawn trigger, down here. This is a step that lots of people forget, so make sure to remember it. Now add a group ID to the trigger you have linked the object to. This ID is for the spawn trigger. Now place your spawn trigger. Place it before the other trigger to notice its effect a little bit better. Click edit object and set the group ID to the ID you gave the other trigger. I will set mine to a group ID of 2. The delay slider will delay the spawn trigger from spawning everything it is linked to. And that is how you use the spawn trigger. This may seem a little pointless at first, but this becomes super useful in platformers or just when you want to delay something. Hopefully the way I explained it makes sense to you. On to the next trigger. The 8th trigger you are about to learn is the rotate trigger. The rotate trigger does exactly what it sounds like. It rotates an object. Here's exactly how to use it. First, place your object and give it a group ID. Now, place your rotate trigger and click edit object. Make the target group ID match the object group ID. I won't be teaching anything about the center group ID, by the way, because it's just a little bit more advanced. The degrees and times 360 boxes are what will make the object rotate the easiest. Adjust those to make it rotate. And that is how you use the rotate trigger. W, on to the next one. The 9th trigger you are about to learn is the scale trigger. The scale trigger is as easy as the alpha trigger. It is capable of changing the size of an object. Here's how to use it. As usual, place down an object and give it a group ID. Place the scale trigger and select edit object. Make the target group ID the same as the object group ID. Scale X expands the object left and right, and scale Y expands the object up and down. And that is pretty much all you need to know about the scale trigger. There's much more to the trigger, but that is all the basics to it. On to the next one. The 10th trigger you are about to learn is the follow trigger. The follow trigger makes it so that certain objects can follow one object. This is the most advanced trigger out of all the triggers on page 1, so make sure you listen to the details carefully. I recommend you learn the move trigger before doing this, by the way. Here's how to use it. First, make sure you only link one object to a move trigger. This object you link to the move trigger will be the object that gets followed by other objects. Place it a little bit farther away, like around here. Now, on this object, add another group ID to it. This will be known as the follow group ID on your follow trigger. I will add an ID of 2. Next, place a bunch of blocks behind that block. Select the blocks and only on those blocks give them a group ID that is different from the previous ones. This will be your target group ID on your follow trigger. I will give mine a group ID of 3. Now, place the follow trigger and make sure it is placed after the move trigger so that you can see what it does more clearly. Click edit object with the follow trigger selected and listen carefully. On the menu, the target group ID is the objects that are following an object. In my case, they are these objects right here. The objects that have one ID is what it's referring to, so I will set mine to an ID of 3. On the follow group ID block, set the ID to whatever ID you gave the block in front of the target blocks. Do not set this box to whatever ID the move trigger is connected to. So for me, I will set mine to an ID of 2. The move time determines how long an object follows the target object. Do not worry about learning Xmod and Ymod for now. This is the hardest trigger to learn out of this page, and you did it. If you have any questions about this, please let me know and I'll do my best to explain. On to the next one. The last trigger you are going to learn is the shake trigger. This is by far the easiest trigger on this page, so it will not take long to learn it. First, place your shake trigger. Click Edit Object and you'll see 3 different sliders. The strength slider determines how intense the shake will be. Setting this at 5 means your screen will shake uncontrollably. The interval slider determines when the shake happens. If you set this at 1, the screen will shake every 1 second. And the duration slider is pretty easy to understand. This is how long the shake will last. And by the way, the shake trigger does not work in the level editor preview, it can only work once you press play. And that is how you use the shake trigger. Pretty dang easy, right? Just like that, you have now learned every single trigger on page uno. Anyways, that will do it for today's video. If you found this video helpful, please let me know in the comments. I would really appreciate the feedback. Anyways, I'm dipping now. Sub for a watermelon. Bye bye.